Well, hey, I'm Sean in St. Louis, and welcome back to the Marketing Gateway. And today we've got part 2 of our interview with Adam Collins from Bearded Board Games. Now, we talked about a little bit in the previous episode about how Adam got around to starting this board game company with his partner, how he has been working on going out into the community and selling board games in really interesting places like farmers markets, and how that has enabled him to find ways to connect with people. But more than that, and we're going to talk about more in this episode too, there's a connection that board gaming can bring that is really special, and it's really social. And part of the kind of genesis of his business was people getting together and playing board games over lunch hours. And he's going to talk much more about that and how that shapes even what they're doing today at Bearded Board Games. But I just love that idea. I think it's so cool. If you work in a larger organization where you can sit down and play some games together over lunch, it's a way to meet people that you don't know. It's a way to work together, to build camaraderie. It's a way to teach people things that maybe aren't that useful practically speaking, but which are fun and interesting. And it opens doors in ways that you might not imagine, especially if you happen to find someone who really enjoys playing board games and you do too. Then you have something in common. So with all that said, here is part 2 of our interview.
So when you're thinking about like how you're going to market a game and what kind of market you're going to support, what are you looking for? And when you're talking with other game makers, what kind of partnerships are you looking to form?
So when we're looking at a game, like right now, I joke that one of the first classes in this semester for this cohort that I was a part of was one of the first questions they asked us was, what does scaling your company look like? And I'm like, oh man, what does scaling boarded beer games look like? It looks like getting all these games out there and all this and all that. And then by the end of the semester, into the class, I was like, you know what? I think the best way to go big is to go small. And so I've got a couple games under contract from other designers. So Fences is our big flagship game. And a buddy of mine, long story short, he created a game for a local farm, kind of like Eckert's here in the St. Louis area. And they were really excited, but they didn't want to like make it. He's like, well, I don't make games. I just design them. And they were like, well, if you ever get it made, let us know. And so then he calls me up. He's like, hey, have you ever thought about doing a roll and write version of Fences? And I'm like, no. He's like, well, I want to show you something when I see you. So we met up at a proto spiel. And so it fits perfectly in alignment with Fences and, redoing the artwork and maybe changing a few little things. And it fits in like the world of Fences. But then we were also, we were always on the lookout for like another big, another game or whatever. And I decided, you know what? We have so many small publishers or small designers here in St. Louis that are looking to get their games out. What if we, instead of trying to go big and find some big game, like what if we just go small and just try to push out games from St. Louis designers that just don't want to, because what people also need to be aware of is if you want to start making board games and doing it legit, like kind of, I don't want to say like I am, but like I am, you're starting a business. And a lot of people don't want to do that. And I get that. I've done it for 7 years and I'm like, why am I still doing this? This is crazy. And so I want to kind of work with some smaller first-time designers or people that are trying to catch a break. They've got a whole bunch of game designs. And so what I look for in that aspect is I'm looking for something that I can, there's all kinds of different games out there, right? The market has exploded over the last 30 years. It's hard to believe that Catan, really, which is really what everybody, says that's the watershed moment. That game came out in 1995. That game is 31 years old. So a lot has happened in the last 3 decades, right? So what I look for, I try to find games. I try to stick to my roots of games I can play in under an hour, something we can play in a lunchtime. But I also try to look for things that have like small production, but have big bang. So like Fences is a tile laying game. And so every time you play the game, you're going to have different tiles and you're going to have different opponents and there's different player profiles that offer different ways to play the game and score the game. So I look for something that has a lot of replayability. And that's what I'm looking for. And so I work at a university here in St. Louis, and there's a board game design, board game art class that I know that I've become friends with the professor, obviously, because board games. And but a couple of our students have had games, and I'm like, if you guys are legit want to do this, I will help you. I will help you take this game all as far as you want to. And I'm working with 2 different groups right now on their games, and it's been a lot of fun, very rewarding to watch these kids. I say kids, I mean, their students are like in their 20s, they're not kids like mine, they're 7. But like, if you have an idea, the best thing you can do, like what you did, Sean, you worked it out. It didn't work. Doesn't mean the game is terrible. It means it just needs work. Rework it. What didn't work? Fix it. Play more games, to figure out what makes this one better. And so we're always looking for stuff like that. And then lately we like, like I said earlier, we like to partner with other small publishers that are like me, have 1 or 2 games, and we booth share. And so we can split the cost. It makes profiting easier if I'm only paying half the cost of being there. So.
And I think that's such an important aspect of small business and of the publishing world too, which is you have to actually know who other people are that are doing these things. They're not your competitors, really. I mean, they might, as you said, be competing for the wallet at that particular place, but really, like, they're your allies. They're the ones that are trying to do what you're trying to do. You can share resources, you can share ideas, you can learn from each other. Yeah. And if their profile raises and you're associated with them, your profile raises too.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to that toxic positivity, right? Like, I remember going through this. I did a smaller farmers market as my first one. Like I said, it was $20 for a booth, and they literally supplied the tent. And then if you didn't have a table, they had one there for you too. And if you didn't have a chair, they had that there too. You could literally just show up with your stuff, and for $20, you could sit there and sell your stuff. I'm a little, thank goodness I'm a little bit more, I've graduated from that for right now. But that's where somebody's like, hey, you ought to try this event. And I went there and it did not work out for me. I worked for 6 hours at this event. I sold $0, but the guy who ran it waived my booth fee, said, hey, I'm sorry, it didn't work out. But don't worry, there was another guy selling old board games downstairs, and I bought a lot of old board games. So I actually was net negative money at that event. But I'm telling you, like, that you're right, that those people that you meet become so great contacts that, Pat, hey, have you heard this one? Hey, there's this Facebook group. There's all kinds of Facebook groups. So anybody listening, if you have a small company that you want to try to get out there, check out the farmers market scene or the craft fair scene. Every flipping high school band has a winter market in their gymnasium. Find the local school that has that in your area and pay the fee and, just show up. Biggest things you can do is have your own table and a tablecloth. You'll find out real quick. I would obviously, I'd have Venmo set up and probably PayPal or Square, so you can take cash and credit and whatever. But I mean, then once you get into one, then somebody there is going to tell you about another one. Who's going to tell you about another one? Who's going to tell you about another one? And now you've got, I have to be kind of picky and choosy about where I go right now because, the farmers market seasons, we try to do 2 or 3 different farmers markets, but I can't be going every weekend. So, but it's not bad because shoot, guys, they're done by noon. You can be home and take a nap.
Well, speaking of things that cut into your free time, you've also got a podcast. So I don't know where you find time to game, honestly, because you're doing.
I haven't this month yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you got this podcast and you have this tagline in your podcast that board games build bridges. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So my podcast is called Eat Lunch and Board Game, stemmed out of the pandemic, like a lot of other people who were sitting around with like, what do I do with my spare time? So I started off reviewing board games that we would play at the office and talk about games. And because I say board games build bridges, because the company I worked for at the time was very segmented. We had 200 people in this building, and yet you probably only knew about the 15 or 20 in your division, your silo, your segment. And so in my group, we started playing Catan, and I worked with a bunch of engineers. And I'm like, so one of the guys saw me playing Catan on my phone one day, and he's like, "What's that?" I was like, "I'll bring it in. I'm sure one of these engineering nerds around here knows how to play Catan." And it took me all of 2 tries to find to find somebody else who knew how to play Catan. And so we started playing Catan, just the two, there were the 3 of us. And then we started off in this small conference room, and then people will like poke their heads in, like, "What are you guys doing? Are you guys playing a board game?" And so then we taught them how to play. And then we taught somebody else how to play. And then all of a sudden, now we needed 2 copies of Catan because we had more than one game could fit. Luckily, all the people I played with at work, they loved the game, and they all bought their own copies. So we had like 8 copies of Catan. But then we had a pretty healthy social or committee. I'm missing my word here. Social committee.
Mm-hmm.
And so we tried to do, it was like, hey, let's just do a board game night and see what happens. So we did a board game night at the office, and they gave me like $40 to buy pizza and soda. So went up the street, bought pizza and soda, and people from like all these different segments and silos of the company, of the same building. We were in the same building. Like, it wasn't like, that big. And we all like came and played in like the cafeteria lunch area. And you really started seeing the lines of communication, like, or the smoke all kind of disappeared. And you see these lines of communications being built. And then all of a sudden, now you know somebody over in that department. And now if you have a question or need an answer from that department, you know somebody over there. They may not be the person that has the answer, but they can point you to the person who does. And so now that bridge is there. You've built that line of communication. You built that bridge. And then the company I worked for had multiple buildings on this campus. And so then we're like, hey, let's take this campus wide. Let's do a campus wide board game event. And we did. We had no idea what was going to happen. And so people showed up, and we had like 20 or 30 people show up that night, maybe more. And all of a sudden now we have people in a whole other building on campus, to where we started having to play every Friday. We would play in the centralized dining facility there on campus at lunch, because we wanted to hang out with people from other buildings. And so you start seeing those lines of communication, those bridges, as I say, the board games build bridges. You start seeing those bridges being built. The company started like realizing, hey, you guys can build this over in that building. Well, why am I buying it from this guy if we can keep the money in house? And so you see that happening. And then the next couple companies I worked for, again, I worked for companies that were like, they were 2 or 3 different entities in one building, and they all viewed each other as like, not the enemy, but like, I don't know what happens on that side of the hallway. And I'm like, well, let's find out what happens if I bust out King of Tokyo and see if I can get people to play with me. And then you got to be willing to level set, though. I had to start at one company. We started out by playing Uno. Uno and Clue. But Clue's underrated anyway. I love Clue. But we played a lot of Uno and Clue, and then we started playing other games at that point. We had, 8 or 10 people at that. You just start seeing it all come together. And so that's what kind of really drove me to keep doing the podcast, and finding games that people could play at lunch. And then I started interviewing people, because my son asked me if hey, you should interview the guy that did one of our favorite games, is the cooperative game Castle Panic by Fireside Games.
Yeah, it's a great one.
And it's one of the best cooperative games ever, really. I mean, Pandemic is fine, but Pandemic, it feels like, life and death, and it kind of is.
And Pandemic kind of was thin after COVID, right?
yeah, a little bit. But then like Castle Panic is just like, you're defending, it's a castle defense game, and you're working together to defend yourself from the monsters coming in from all sides. And so my son's like, you should see if he'll be on your podcast. And I'm like, why would this guy want to be on my podcast? But I reached out to him via Facebook, blind. And about 30 minutes later, he responded that, heck yeah, let's do it. And so I've been doing interviews with people around the industry, different things ever since. And even that is, building bridges. Now I have contacts that, do all kinds of weird things in the industry.
That's fantastic. And hey, you have a fallback plan. If Bearded Board Games needs another revenue source, you could be the consultants that go in and teach people how to play board games and as team building.
Yeah.
Build a board game library. It'd probably be a lot cheaper than hiring a consultant. And then, you guys.
Yeah, I've actually kicked that idea around, but I'm like, how do you even start that? Like how do you even? I was like, I don't even know how you would begin to do that, but it's an interesting idea. Maybe we'll try to figure that out now, Sean. Well, how do we do this?
We're just giving away gold here on this episode.
Yeah, so anybody can figure it out. Just you do it. You figure it out. Let me know.
Well, one more question I wanted to ask you is that, there's a lot of people that would like to get into playing board games, but they get intimidated by all the choices and how complex some of the games are. And I mean, you look at something like Gloomhaven, right? I mean,
oh yeah,
that looks intimidating. It's a great game, but it looks intimidating. So what advice would you give to those who want to have a board game night that's more exciting than just pulling out the old Monopoly or Scrabble sets?
First of all, Monopoly is underappreciated. If you play the game by the rules, it should play in about 90 minutes. It's everybody messing with the rules of Monopoly that make the game last forever. But also people always want to be so hateful to Monopoly because it's just a roll and move. It is, but it's also a mind game, and you're trying to outsmart people and when to buy stuff and when to trade stuff and when to buy something from somebody else. And also you have to appreciate a game that has lived around for 90 years and is still the top selling board game every year. You sit there and think of these new games that come out there, even games like Wingspan that have been out for a long time have sold just in the low millions of copies, and Monopoly sells 9 million a year or something ridiculous. Now, part of it is people don't want to buy somebody, so they buy them a copy of Monopoly, but still 9 million or something. They sell millions of copies of Monopoly, and they have for 90 years. That's crazy. But back to your question, how do you find games? There's a couple things that I do. I utilize Board Game Geek.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great website. My coworker and I, we joke because trying to get a new game listed in there, our next game, we're trying to get it put into Board Game Geek. You can tell this website was built by geeks back in the late 90s, and it's all code, HTML code based, and it is terrible. And is somebody who's trying to add a board game or add an artist or add a designer. It is horrible. But as a user just trying to find out about games, that is a great resource. You can go on there, type in a game that you know or that you're curious about, and you can read about it, and it'll tell you the best thing you can do. The two things I like to look at the most are play time. How long is it going to take? Should it take me to play the game? And then look at the weight. And I try to I like to play anything under a 3, because 3 tends to get to be very complex and the learning curve becomes really steep. But I like to try to keep it, right there. Because and then you can also type in a game that you know and you like, and if you scroll a little bit, it'll you can see the mechanics on the side, I know I'm throwing out words you may not know, but you can read about the mechanic, and what you like about that game could be that it's a re-roll and locking game like Yahtzee. A lot of people know Yahtzee. Apparently my wife didn't. I was like, how did you get to be 40 years old and never play Yahtzee? But if you like the re-rolling and locking of Yahtzee, King of Tokyo uses that, and it's in a whole different way. And there's other games that do the same thing, like Age of War and stuff like that use re-rolling and locking. But that's another way. You can click through those mechanics, or you can click on the weight, and you can find games that have low weights. For instance, Candyland is a 1 because you can't give it a 0. Candyland has 0 strategy. Shoots and Ladders is a 1. There's no strategy. But then a game like Gloomhaven is like 3.8 or something or 4. It's like super complicated. So stay away from those at the beginning. But you can also read a lot of times if you go to the files, it'll have the instructions. You can kind of read through it. How-to videos. There's everywhere now. There's always the joke now about, do you even need to write a rule book, or do you just need to make a really good how to play video and then just have like a rule reminder, quick reference guide in your box. We still write rule books because that's what everybody expects, but you're going to learn a new game, you're going to watch a video. And so go to YouTube and watch videos on a game you're curious about. I watch a lot of videos that way. Like there's a couple really good. So I like to watch or play old games that I feel like have kind of been forgotten. And there's a couple really good YouTube channels that I'm like, oh, I wonder if he's done a video on this game. And if he has, I sit down there and watch him. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to find that. But that's, YouTube to find, to watch how-to videos. I would also use Board Game Geek to find games that have like that 2 or, 2-ish. I mean, don't be afraid of a game that's 1.8, but any game that's like 1.1, you're probably just rolling and moving. You're not doing a whole lot. But I would use that. And then, shameless plug. I mean, my game or my podcast, Eat Lunch and Board Game, most of the games that I review on there can be played in under an hour, 30 to 60 minutes. And the reason for that is that's what I like to play. I like to play a lot of games in a night. I'm what they call a grazer. I play a lot, but nothing more than, I don't play deep. So I don't play a game a lot. I play a lot of games. I'm trying to pull that back a little bit. But yeah, that's what I focus on. King of Tokyo is one of my favorite games forever to bring people into the hobby, because it brings that familiar Yahtzee. A new one that's really great is Flip 7. Just a deck of cards, and it's a push your luck. You're trying to flip 7 numbers and not get a repeat number. And sounds easy when I say it like that, but there's a little bit more going on to it. But that's another one that has really made it a play to be a game, a gateway game. And that's the other thing you can do. Google gateway games and look for those games that, pretty much, I would say until lately, anything you can buy at Target that's not Hasbro is probably a good way to start. Ticket to Ride, Carcassonne. A lot of those, again, these games are getting to be 30 years old now, man. I mean, that's what, Carcassonne, Ticket to Ride just did a brand new edition. Things like that, or find it, I wouldn't advise jumping in with Gloomhaven, that's for sure.
There are games that are easy and understandable, and then there are games that are made for the really hardcore audiences, and you have to kind of learn how to tell the difference. That's for sure. I often flip it over and look how many pieces are in it, and that tells me a lot.
I look at playtime.
Yeah.
Like, can this game be played in an hour? 90 minutes? Ooh, okay, we'll try it. If it's like 3 hours, I'm sorry. I'm sure it's a good game. I just don't want to play a game for 3 hours.
Yeah, I've always wanted to play this game called Twilight Imperium. It looks great.
Nope.
But I picked it up once and I almost dropped it because it was so heavy. And
it's so big.
Yeah.
The box is huge.
Yeah, I can't imagine that I would have the time to learn to play it, let alone to play it. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it's like a 6-hour, 8-hour game. Mm-hmm. Like, I know people that they play it with some of the expansions, and it is their Saturday.
Yeah.
Their friends come over like 8 o'clock in the morning and they play into the wee hours of the night. And I'm like, the same game? Yeah.
Well,
but like I said, once you learn a game, find the mechanic and you'll probably find other games. And then from there, you can keep jumping around. And, that's how you wind up surrounded, or as my wife says, drowning in board games. But I'm not drowning yet. I got room. I can still stack things up to the ceiling.
We've got a 1 in, 1 out rule in my house right now because we have so many that we need to sort through.
Hey, I start off every month as a no-buy month, and this year I've only bought 4 games, so I've done pretty good. 1 a month, been added to the collection. Expansions don't count, by the way, just in case you're wondering. I can buy all the expansions I want. I can't buy new games. That's kind of the rule.
Well, I have not been able to avoid buying board games this month because I actually bought a couple from you. So
That's true. I got to mail those out yet.
yeah, no, and so I'm looking forward to playing them. But I want to ask you at the end of every episode, we ask if there's something you want to plug. I'm sure you want to plug Bearded Board Games. Tell us a little bit about how people can find them and how they make you buy them.
Yeah, so beardedboardgames.com, and we have a shop right there. We are pretty much out of fences right now. I'm waiting on my quote for the second edition, which we're putting together, which will, the only real difference between the original edition and the second edition is we're going to make it 2 to 6 player right out of the box. And we did a small mini expansion because of the production problems from the first game called Seasons, and we're just going to include that in the base game as well. So I'll probably pull that one off the site here in a little bit and put up a pre-order for the second edition. But then Locked Out's on there, which is our space competitive style game, which is interesting because the whole point of the game is that you're working together to unlock the computer because the ship has locked you out of it. The catch of the game is if you guys succeed in doing it, then the player with the most points left in their hands wins. They actually win the game because they were the best space pirate and had all the points. However, if you fail to get to the board computer in time, then the player with the lowest amount, the fewest points left in their hand, is the winner. So you can sabotage the mission, but then when people realize you're sabotaging it, then they try to shed points, but maybe in the same time that causes victory to happen. And so it's a lot of fun because you get to kind of accuse each other of withholding, and you're withholding stuff from me and stuff like that. So, but yeah, it's and then we got more coming out. We got another one we're getting ready to launch on Kickstarter, hopefully in mid-June. Had some issues with Facebook ads manager, or Meta ads man, what are they calling themselves these days? So we've been working through that. But we got that coming out. And then we've got 2 new games that are going to be coming out again soon that are smaller. We're calling them goatee games instead of bearded board games. We're going to have goatee games. They're going to be these short, quick, small box games you can play.
I love it. And I know one of the ones you showed me that's coming up is a soccer game. And yep. St. Louis is becoming a city of soccer. So
yep.
Again, maybe there's some opportunity for you there, but we'll put a link to Bearded Board Games as well as to your Kickstarter page in the show notes for anyone that wants to check it out. Because I'm telling you guys, I got to see these games firsthand, and I was really excited about them being a board game player. So I know that they have a lot of opportunity too. Even if you're kind of a casual board game fan, I think you'll really like what they have to offer. So
yeah, that was it's always funny to say, how hard or how long does it take to play fences? Well, we designed it to be played in a lunch hour. And the funny quick story behind Locked Out is I sponsored a board game design contest through the Game Crafter, and it was called Design a Lunchtime Game. And the 7 finalists, their playable prototypes were mailed to me. And I took all 7 of them to work, and we played them in lunch hour. Putting it through the paces. Can it be played in a lunch hour? Is it fun? Is it something that's replayable? And there were 3 games that we really, really liked. One of them we were like, we really like this game, but there is no way it can be played in a lunch hour. No way.
More of a dinner time.
So that one had to be, unfortunately, we had to put that one off to the side. And then Locked Out was the winner. We kept coming back to it just because of the dual ending. Like, no matter what happens, only one winner. And that was so cool. And we had a lot of fun with that one. And I when we signed it, I took it to a couple proto spiels. There was a couple things that needed to kind of be like rough edges that just kind of need to be sanded off to make the gameplay a little bit better, and a little bit of development to it. But other than that, Locked Out was fun, and that's how we found that one. So,
well, fantastic. Well, Adam, thanks so much for being on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Oh,
I love talking board games, but you've really helped us understand the marketing side of it too, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, no problem. And, appreciate being on the show and you having me. And yeah, anybody with a small business and you just want to kind of get out and test the waters, like find a farmer's market or a craft fair or something like that in your area. And just, you'd be surprised how, yeah, you like, we sell board games but I'm in a row next to other artisans, other artists. Yeah, the cabbage guy's behind me, and the pistachio guy, which is one of my other favorite guys. The pistachio guy. Every farmer's market, I got to buy a bag of those. Well, two, because we eat through one while we're there, and then we take the other one home. They're there, but we're also there, and you never know what you're going to find at a farmer's market either. I'll tell you that. Soap, like people sell soap at a farmer's market, and candles, and like I said, book binding and stuff like that. I mean, go to your farmer's market, see what's there. I mean, if anything else, I'll plug that. Plug your farmer's market, man. Go check it out. Those are great. That's a good way to meet people too.
Well, great. Well, thanks so much, Adam.
Well, I really want to thank Adam for taking time to be on the show. He and I actually had a conversation that went on a little longer after this interview because we both have so many shared interests, not just in board games, and we both definitely love them, but also just in finding ways to bring people together and, have that kind of sense of community. And I'm really excited for the things that they're doing at Bearded Board Games. I am sure we're going to continue to hear more from them in the future. And I want to mention again that beardedboardgames.com is their website. You can go there and look and see at the games they've got. Fences and Locked Out are the two that I have, and I'm waiting on them to get sent to me because I just ordered them, but I am excited to play them. And I know they have others on the way, including one that is coming up that is called Packlash, which definitely looks like it's going to be a really fun game as well. They're going to be at the Geekway to the West board game conference this weekend. Actually, it's already open right now. You can go on geekway.com and register. So if you want to go meet Adam and his son and check out what they're doing, they're going to be there. You can also just look around local farmers markets because they go to those too. So check around and see if you can find them at any of those. But beyond that, I also encourage you to check out their Eat, Lunch, and Board Game podcast, which I think at some point we're going to try to get me on, which I'm really excited to do. And they also have a YouTube channel called Reviews from the Attic. And all of that is in the show notes. Be sure to check it out. Be sure to support our local board game makers and community because that's part of what we're all about here on the Marketing Gateway is bringing together not only our expertise, but also our enthusiasm for what each other is doing. So thanks so much, Adam. Enjoyed having you on the show. I'm Sean in St. Louis. This has been the Marketing Gateway, and we'll see you next time.